What is going on YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I'm going to be bringing you an updated Gabumon deck list profile. I did showcase this deck on the channel a couple times as it has been circulating around with me and my Team Icewall teammates, and I have had people asking me to do a deck profile on it. I did post the link in some comments, but of course doing a deck profile allows me to go a little bit more in depth into the cards, and so let's go ahead and get on into it. Alright, so starting off with the Digitama, of course, we are going to be playing 5 because you do promote a lot with this deck, and so having the 5th egg does lower the consistency of the egg a little bit, but it makes it so that you can have as many free checks as you can get from raising, and that's really important, especially in longer games. You want to be able to get as much promotion as possible, as well as being able to get that resources from Matt. So for the eggs, we do have the 4 Upamon. Of course, when attacking, if your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolutions card play, draw 1, and this is going to be very big with this deck because we do have multiple ways to strip sources that we will be going over, and so it's really easy to get Upamon live when your opponent has Digimon on the board. And then for the 5th egg, we are going to play 1 Kiaromon because this also draws cards. It's just when you strip a source, you get to draw cards. Again, like I just said, we are going to be stripping sources, so I just wanted to draw cards off of this. I think Upamon is still a bit better, but Kiaromon is nice. I don't think if you swap these two, it changes a whole lot, to be completely honest, but I think because of the EX3 Gabu that we're going to go over, the Upamon attacking is just a little bit better. Alright, so starting off with the rookies, we will be having the BT1 Gabumon, which is just on play, draw 1. This is just nice cycle. I don't think there's too much to say here. It's a Gabumon name that gets you draw. And then, of course, we're going to be having 4 of the BT6 Gabumon. This one's the most important because it is going to give us the inheritable to unsuspend once again, so that way you can get 3 attacks with your Bond of Friendship. Also, when it's on the board, all turns, when you play a Tamer with Matt Ashita, you gain a memory. So this is big because you can either play this out and then play a Matt for 2, or if you have this on your board and your opponent swings into security and hits a Matt, then you can gain a memory for each one that you have on the board here. So BT6 Gabumon is an auto staple 4 of. And then finishing off the rookies, we will be having 4 of the EX3 Gabumon. This one's really important because when attacking, you get to reveal the top 3. You get to grab a Digimon with Gabumon in its name or a Tamer. So this is really good for finding our Bond of Friendships, as well as finding our Mats or any of our other Tamers. So this card is important to go over because we're going to come back to this card when we get to the champions, because some of the champion lineup is based around this Gabumon because you want the consistency of this card. You'll be able to attack, which usually means you get security checks, while also being able to get consistency, so this card is very important to the list. And then to finish off the rookies, we're going to be having the 2 Madoki Betamon, and I just think this is the better Floodgate over Syakomon right now. It is really nice. It hits so many decks in the metagame, and it just hits a bunch of random cards, whether that be Memory Boost, Hammer Spark, just Digimon Inheritables that gain you memory, Bloom Lordmon being able to gain you memory, stuff like that. It is very strong, so I think it's just pretty standard. Now, getting on into the champions, I'm going to start off with our hybrids, and I'll start off with the Kumamon. We are playing 4. This is going to be our main hybrid just because it does strip sources. We're not really looking for DP here. We're mostly just looking for being able to get attacks in, and so a lot of the times just being able to strip sources is very nice, especially when you pair it with things like Sorajo or even just stunning your opponent with Korikakumon. But yeah, we're playing Kumamon as our main base of hybrids. And then we're playing 1 Lobomon, and we're playing 2 Korikakumon as our other hybrids. And the reason why I'm playing 1 Lobomon over the 3rd Korikakumon is because of the 2 to Digivolve over a level 3, because there's so many times where we want to be going over our EX3 Gabumon, that the 3 to Digivolve of the Korikakumon just feels very inefficient and not that good. And we don't play as many times to stun things with Korikakumon as much as they are kind of aggressive cards. So the Korikakumon itself isn't that important. I just think that playing it to have that 1 to Digivolve over level 4 and stun is very nice, especially because we do have Tommy in the list. But when I was playing it with 3, I found too many times where I was having to Digivolve for 3 over my EX3 Gabu, so I just decided to switch it to a Lobomon for that case, because in all the other scenarios where you're just Digivolving on top of a Tamer, it's 2 to Digivolve anyway, and like I said, I don't care about the DP too much. Then we have 2 Caesarmon from EX2, which is just jamming, and this is because we want to be going on top of our EX3 Gabu. Again, being able to swing with jamming, be able to get its when attacking effect, potentially Upamon when attacking effect as well, and then being able to survive the check to potentially unsuspend and do it again next turn is very nice. The Caesarmon is the newest edition of the deck mostly because I just recently kind of started to play it, but I really like it because we were playing 3 Leomon from EX2, but decided to cut down 2 of them to the Caesarmon to be a bit more aggressive because the one of Leomon that we have left is still very nice because you have a blocker that when you have a tamer, you have a blocker, and then on deletion you gain 2 memory and draw a card. So this is a blocker that can essentially pass your opponent's turn, which is nice, except for we are playing a deck that is much more focused on aggression and offense, and I found Leomon to be a little bit too defensive of a card, and there was just a lot of times where Leomon didn't feel that great, and Caesarmon has felt a lot better, but I still wanted to keep the one Leomon because it is still nice for just consistency purposes, as well as sometimes to just have a late game blocker. It's not something that you really need to focus on the deck, but there are some decks where if you just set up one blocker that is able to gain 2 memory at the right time, it is very effective, but if you don't like the Leomon, you could cut it, but I'm still just playing it at the 1. Then for the ultimates, we are only playing at 2 Beowulfmon, and this is because we are playing 7 hybrids. I think this is very nice. 1, because you're able to Digivolve up to this for 1, be able to get a little bit stronger of a stack, and being able to recycle hybrids, but the main reason is the bounce. We don't have ways to really get rid of memory blockers outside of Bond of Friendship itself, so Beowulfmon helps a lot. There's a decent amount of stun in this deck, but stun doesn't help when your opponent has things like Madoki Betamon, and we have a bunch of cards that gain memory, so Beowulfmon helps a lot. These really were just kind of like the last 2 slots in the list, so that's why there's only like 2 instead of maybe more, but I also don't know if you need to cut it for more, because I think then you're leaning much more on the blue hybrid package than you are on the Bond of Friendship package, as to where the blue hybrid package is mostly just a complementary package for the Bond of Friendship that you don't really focus on. They just work together so well. So the Beowulfmon is a card that is kind of a hit or miss. If you don't want to play it and you want to play something else, you can cut it because it's definitely not necessary. But if you do cut it, you'll have to find another way to be able to bounce memory blockers because, like I said, those are very annoying. Now getting into the man himself, 3 Bond of Friendship, and I've been playing 3 since Nationals earlier this year in BT6, and that's because you really only bond once per game. If you're playing against a really slow deck, you might be able to bond twice per game, but the thing is you're really only bonding once, and so when you have extra bonds in hands, they are all just dead cards, and so I found 3 to be the perfect number. We do have decent search with things like Blue Memory Boost and the EX1 Gabumon or Draw Gabu and things like that, so most of the time you're going to be finding your Bond of Friendship, so I think the 4th is just a brick card. Now let's go ahead and move on into the options, starting off with the 1 Howling Memory Boost. And I do like Howling a lot because it is able to strip sources, which will help you with things like your Kiaro, your Upamon, as well as being able to give you Sorajo memory, but it's mostly for that delay, being able to gain 2 memory, and this is paired along with our 2 Blue Memory Boost. We were playing 3 Blue Memory Boost and decided to cut for a Howling because the strip is very nice. Bond of Friendship is a deck where sometimes you just need 1 or 2 extra turns to be able to just kind of find those pieces, so Howling was very nice. It is a matchup situational kind of card though, so with the Howling, we decided to just play it at 1 and the Blue Memory Boost at 2, but these kind of combined together to be our 3 memory boosts because, again, a lot of the times we are going to be focusing on gaining memory, so that way you can go for your Bond of Friendship. Once you get your 3 swings with Bond, then you're able to go for 1, 2, 3 different hybrids, and we need a lot of memory to be able to do that. So again, we want the 3 memory boosts, but we're just playing the 1 Howling memory boost to accompany the 2 blue memory boosts. If you don't want to play Howling or don't like Howling, you could move it over to a blue memory boost, or if you do really like Howling, you could move a blue memory boost over to Howling. It doesn't really matter, but I would recommend playing 3 memory boosts. And then next up we have 1 Innocence Blizzard, and my teammates like this card a little bit more than I do. Now I don't think this card is bad, but it definitely feels very mid. I think a card like this or Sorai do occupy this slot, but Sorai hasn't felt as great as Innocence Blizzard, even though it does strip more sources. Sorai is still just a pseudo stun as to where this can actually stun, and it has a pretty decent security hit because your opponent has multiple Digimon, you can strip and stun. It's very nice versus things like Bloom Lordmon, Jessmon, just things that go wide, D-Brigade. So the Innocence Blizzard isn't bad, but I will say it does feel slightly mid. It's one of the cards in the deck that I kind of like the least, but I don't, again, I don't think it's bad. It's just that if you feel the same way that the Innocence Blizzard does feel a little bit mid, I do agree with you, but there are a lot of times where this card is very necessary. Being able to have the wide stun effect when you aren't able to stun in other ways has been very crucial. Then we got 4 Hammer Sparks, and I'm maxing out on the Sparks because, again, want that max memory as possible. I want to be able to promote Gabumon, gain memory from my mats, go for Bond, and then be able to play as many hybrids as I can, so that way I can go for pseudo OTKs, or just be able to go for a bunch of hybrids even if you skip that Bond of Friendship phase and just go for hybrids for games. You want a bunch of memory, and so I wanted to max out with the Hammer Spark. I will say that my teammates are playing a red plugin over one of the Hammer Sparks here. That is the one where you are able to get security tag +1, so that way you're able to give your Bond of Friendship security tag +1 for 2 memory, but I, from my experience, have not really enjoyed it that much. Although it sounds like it should be very good, I have found it to be rather inconsistent, and there's a lot of times where you'll have it in your hand and you go for Bond and you don't even end up playing it, and I've just found the Bond into hybrids and being able to be more Digimon focused with your checks has been a lot nicer. So you could play the plugin there if you do like it, but that is where our lists are going to be separating, as I decided to just go for the Spark there for maximum memory gain, because I just want to being able to go for those hybrids, being able to go for that Bond. And to finish off the options, we have 2 Kakaitis Breath, and that's because I just really like removal in this list. Kakaitis Breath has been very nice. There are decks like Metal Garurumon that were playing Kakaitis Breath and then ended up cutting it because they just wanted to focus more on the Digimon and the consistency of the deck. Bond of Friendship is definitely a deck that can afford a couple flex cards, and the flex cards I like in this deck are going to be those removal cards, just because that way when you are trying to set up your Bond of Friendship, being able to get your Tamers out and just find that BT6 Gabumon and stuff like that, it does take a couple turns, and so being able to have really strong security, which you will have with the Hammer Sparks, the Kakaitis, the Innocence Blizzard, the Ice Wall, you have pretty decent security, so being able to have that does give you that time, but also there's just times where you need to just get rid of a stack, whether that be a big blocker or you just don't have your pieces yet and your opponent has their level 6 out. Kakaitis is very nice. We have tried other things in the slot like Sorai, more Innocence Blizzards, multiple plugins, more memory boost, things like that, but I've personally found the Kakaitis Breath to be the best. If you wanted to play another removal card, maybe you found something cheaper that you prefer, that's fine, but I think just having some sort of removal is fine, and Kakaitis is just the most universal, because that way you can bounce level 7s like Death X, instead of having to be limited to things that just bounce level 6s or lower. Now to move on to the final part of the deck, which is going to be the Tamers, and I feel like we are going to be pretty standard, starting off with 3 Davis, and this is great for search, again, being able to find our Bond of Friendships or anything, whatever we need, the BT6 Gabumons, but also our Memory Tamer. We all know how good Davis is, and I just really like 3 Memory Tamers as the number here, so 3 Davis it is. And then we got 2 Sora and Joe, and this card is just very nice because, one, it's able to strip sources, which helps you gain memory with Sora Joe. It helps you get rid of annoying things like maybe blocker from a Black or Greymon source. It makes it so that you can gain Kiaromon draws and Upamon draws, and just it does so much for the deck. We're only playing it at 2 though because we already playing a decent amount of Tamers, and I also wanted to keep those slots open for the options because I do think the options are very strong in this deck. But Sorjo is very nice. If you wanted to cut another card, like maybe you wanted to cut that Hammer Spark that my teammates use as a plug-in, but maybe you wanted a Sorjo, you could do something like that. Sorjo is a very strong card. I have nothing against it. It's just in the current build, we have been playing it at 2, and if I could go to 3, there are some matchups where that would be very nice, but there are also some matchups where Sorjo literally doesn't do anything for you besides maybe strip a couple sources. And of course, we're going to be having 4 mat because this is Gabumon. We want to be having as many mats as we can. We want to be finding mat as soon as possible. Optimally, we want to be opening EX1 Gabu and mat, so that way we can really start to get those resources, start to just get things going and get the deck started. So 4 mat is just auto standard. I don't think there's really anything else to say about that. Then to finish the list and the Tamers is going to be that one of Tommy, and the Tommy is just very nice. Of course, it got restricted because it was so strong, and I don't think this card is really going anywhere, but it works very well because we are playing 7 hybrids, so it's very easy to get a hybrid on top of this to get stunned. We are playing Sorajo, so being able to strip is nice. Just being able to get Upamon draws or anything like that just works well. It works well with Korikaku. It works with the whole deck. I could go on and on and on about how Tommy helps, and this card had to get limited or else, man, we would still be playing Blue Hybrid, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, this is going to finish it off. I don't think there's too much to say about Tommy. It got limited for a reason. It is so strong, especially with Korikaku. But this is going to be the list. Let me know down below what you like, what you didn't like, what you would change, and if you end up testing it, let me know what you think about it. But if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe because I'll be bringing you even more Digimon content, and I hope to catch you next time. I hope you have a fantastic day. Peace out.